Hey everyone, my name is the Radman, and we are here for some farming simulator. So, as you can remember, hopefully, last episode we had a little bit of an issue with the game. It actually crashed, and I lost quite a bit of progress. But I've made that back. It wasn't too hard. I just had to finish the harvest up to the great demand. And so 2% of this bunker, for reference, is that much, and that's about how much corn it takes to fill it. And I think what I'm going to do is harvest all the rest of this with the combine, and then harvest most, if not all of this, with the silage cutter machine. It is a little bit finicky to control. I haven't saved with this button, so I'm debating going and buying the in-game one because the hitbox on that right side is a little wonky. But anyway, I'm going to complete the harvest and then going to compact that into silage, and we'll see how much we can sell it for. Hey guys, one real quick thing that I just wanted to do. I'm still in the middle of the corn harvest, but we're just gonna sell this old baler. Okay, for some reason I thought it had. I thought I was trying to sell the baler first, then the trailer, so I was a little confused. And I'm debating whether or not to keep this little tractor around. Because the thing is, there's not actually very much I can use it for anymore. Because right now I do have enough tractors to cover everything I need to do. And the money could probably go into something else, because I'll definitely test this before I actually sell the tractor. But I'm thinking that with the money I get from it, I could just buy one of these. I'm trying to remember though if that new baler that I got, this one over here, if it supports baling grass that hasn't been through a tedder, because if that's the case, then I definitely want to just buy a mower and start cutting grass, because those silage bales are actually worth a lot of money. And also I did get the pit partially filled up, and it's fermenting right now. I only ended up using the one field just because it's kind of a pain. And it looks like the corn's almost ready, so I'm just gonna fill this up off camera and I'll be right back. Hey everyone, so I'm back and I'm having a little bit of trouble. For some reason I can't lift up the bucket of silage, and also my webcam is turned off because I was recording Factorio, which doesn't need a face cam. And yeah, I've tried a few different things, but it seems like once you start loading the bucket, it just... I don't know whether it's just too heavy or what, but I might try... Okay, so the problem is I need to dump it without immediately refilling it. Yeah, it seems like even with less in the bucket, I still cannot... Yeah, this is not physics. Yeah, see, so even with less, I cannot lift it up high enough to dump it in that trailer. So, I think we're just going to have to wait for a bigger tractor, because I think it's just a glitch with this tractor. I've had the same thing happen a few times when I've picked up pallets with it before. So I'm just going to set this over here, and we're not going to be able to do any more silage, obviously, because now there's silage in here, and obviously you can't do anything while there's silage in there. But anyway, I'll be right back. I'm just harvesting some canola to get my supply back up, and then I'm gonna harvest some wheat, and I'll probably show you guys the baler when I harvest the wheat. Hello everyone. So, this is kinda funny. I actually lost the audio for the entire rest of this episode. So, basically what we're doing now is we're selling that forestry thing because I came to realize that it is a massive pain to use, and after some off-camera testing I determined that buying an actual piece of equipment, I believe it's a telehandler, will make things better, because that problem with the bucket, I came to conclude, is a physics-based error that just involves like the weight of things in the game relative to the size of vehicles. I had a few problems with the baler for similar reasons that are fixed by either upgrading the tractor or not filling it up as much, and in this instance it's just easier to upgrade to a telehandler. So basically that idea that I just told you is what I was saying along the road, except obviously I said it a lot better because I've gotten it out of the way. And now what we're going to do is we're going to use this telehandler to load the silage, the little bit that we have, from our bunker into a cargo train, or a wagon train I should say, and then we're going to run it over to the biogas plant. And the biogas plant, just for reference, is, I believe it's the only place in this game where you can sell silage unless you've baled it. Then I'm pretty sure that you can sell it. Then you can sell the silage if you bale wet grass. But only certain balers support it, and I'm not actually sure if it's possible to do in-game. And here's a great example of the physics. I just lost some silage there because for the same reason that it's really easy to flip the vehicles that have attachments on the front of them, it's also really easily to almost tip yourself upside down driving down a few degree slope. And I was originally going to unload from the end of the bunker and then just drive back and forth every time, but then I decided to just turn around every time. And pretty soon here I'm going to say I'm going to basically just jump cut to when I've got this train loaded. But I was probably saying something along the lines of you know, something about the biogas plant, because it's easier to say what you want to say in post commentary than at the time, because at the time you have to be thinking about the gameplay, and obviously in my little rambling we are actually driving to the biogas plant, and I will show you how to get there, just not in this particular clip. Now I'm relieved to see that we have bunkers, because one thing I was worried about is when I drove by before, I couldn't tell if there was bunkers that you could store your own silage in. And unfortunately, I find out that, well, the open pit that I was thinking of is from 2013, and you can't dump silage back into the bunkers. Because what I was going to do was just unload it and then bring down my telehandler and then just re-shovel it up and dump it in, because those two auger things do have a maximum rate at which they can accept things, and it does take them time to process stuff. And there's a shot of the intake for the biogas plant. The only thing it accepts is silage, and now I'm just going to look around. And then I decide that I have to buy a mod. Now, one of my mods adds in a foldable conveyor belt. It's that blue one by Maru. And that big green thing is actually kind of a broken mod that, while it's extremely cheap, it's also really hard to move around. But it's basically just I think it's over 1,000,000 liter capacity. Basically it's just a giant trailer, but it is huge, and sometime I'll have to show you guys it. So I saved the game, just because I have, ever since it crashed earlier, I have been a little bit better about saving so I don't lose progress. And then I finally decide on what mod to buy, and I do end up buying the blue one because it is the most reliable. Because though there are ones that hook on to the telehandler itself, they are a lot less reliable because they're more prone to glitching out than that one. And now we're gonna go pick it up. I reset it and there it is. So in a minute we'll be able to see the tooltips for it. And yeah, it's probably gonna be really weird looking at myself because I can't see my face cam very well, or else I would probably try and match up more what I'm saying with what I was saying then. Anyway, so you use J and N to put this up and down, and when you first press J, it automatically unfolds that back part, and that is the absolute lowest that conveyor belt will go, which I remember explaining this, but the funny thing about this conveyor is I originally wanted to download it because I didn't realize that the hitbox on the selling point for bales would be so much outside of the building, because when we start getting into round bales, this is, of course, I've recorded the next episode without realizing that this episode had this audio error. In the next episode we get some round bales and we find out that the hitbox for the selling of them actually extends outside of the bale building itself. So originally I had downloaded this to try and use it with bales, and while it is named a bale conveyor, it doesn't actually transport bales. It does transport everything else in the game though, and I think it might have the adaptability to transport other stuff from other mods, but don't quote me on that because I'm not sure. And that was just, by the way, the reason I drove the long way around is just to show you guys the way that I take to get to the biogas plant, because it is the fastest way, because if you don't go that back way, then you have to take one of two really long ways around. And now we're going to have a fun time of actually placing the conveyor belt, because one problem with it is that if you don't have a tractor attached onto it, you can start the, I think it's the ball and band is what it's actually called. But basically what can happen is you can start it overloading and then unhook from it and it'll just randomly shut off, which can cause a lot of problems, especially if you're like trying to sell silage. So once we unhook from it, which takes a while because I had to do a lot of repositioning, but yeah, once we unhook from it, we'll actually see that there it is. Now there's a new little area that you could hook onto the back of it, and I don't hook onto it just because I'm hoping that it'll stay on without being hooked onto it. And now we get one of the weirder parts of dealing with mods, which is that modded trailer, as you'll see, its wheel can pass right next to the hitch for that, and it gets in hit distance, and then for some reason the game really slows down. I think it's because of all the money calculations that it had to do right at the time, which is pretty hard on the game. But yeah, and yeah, it actually takes the entire wagon, the entire first wagon. Now the second wagon actually causes us some trouble because since it's an in-game, like it was built by Giants themselves, it doesn't have near as many clipping errors, which means that it hits a lot more stuff than modded stuff, because usually modded stuff, especially like the wheels, they will usually have a hitbox that is between like an inch to sometimes even like a foot inside of the actual vehicle itself, which, you know, I'm not complaining about. And then eventually I kind of get sick of waiting around and I speed up time. But yeah, there we go. Wait, no, And basically we're just waiting for stuff to happen, and you can see it's actually telling us how much we're making, however often it's able to dump in there, because what's happening is the ball and band automatically shuts off when it's too full. And now we're actually coming back for round 2 because I think I went and I got my set of peripherals, and there we go. That was the light shutting off. And now it takes me a good few minutes to actually get that silly thing hooked back on. But luckily it isn't one of those mods that usually like auto centers itself or anything, because there's a few of them where when you hook onto the trailer it'll snap to be straight back behind you. But luckily this mod didn't do that. It did shift it a little bit just so that the wheel wasn't clipping through anything. But the reason that it's so tricky, by the way, is because there's that little red scale right in front of it. But anyway, we got it successfully hooked up, which is all nice. And now we're going to dump that out. And I accidentally checked the finances there. And I'm trying to remember what we did next. So basically, I'm pretty sure what I did was I started speeding up time so that we could just sell both wagons really fast, because if you didn't know, the capacity that those feeder things hold that limits how much silage you can put in is entirely based on time. So the faster the time scale in the game is, the faster it uses up the silage. And that's demonstrated by being able to dump 2 wagons in less than a minute by manipulating the just the in-game time scale. And now what I was going to do is I was going to run back and reload just the blue trailer, because I had less than a full load left. In fact, I only think I had 2 or 3 scoops. But then what I end up doing actually is coming down here and filling and bringing down the telehandler, because I decide to try and experiment with which is more effective, hauling a wagon, or if you already have a telehandler down there and you've been keeping your silage in the bunkers, just using silage out of the bunkers. And what I discover, by the way, is as long as you're really careful about it and don't dump too much silage onto the ball and band, it will take every drop of silage without spilling any on the floor, because if you didn't know, if you do spill on the floor, it is just deleted, which is a really annoying thing, but I can understand why, I guess. But for some reason the video clip actually went missing, but basically when I tested it out the second time, it spilled on the floor because I didn't have the camera right. And since I didn't have the camera right, that made me actually spill. And this is actually that video. So after I finished recording the first part of this narration, I discovered that I had left out this part, and this is actually what I'm talking about. So the stupid camera caused me to dump probably $1,000 worth of silage just on the ground. And now I actually used the camera to see that I was still way off. But anyway, now what we're going to do actually is use our newfound monies to good use. And for just a little bit more here, we're kind of going to be just messing around here. And I'm trying to remember what we were doing, because I didn't rewatch this part because I had forgotten about it. Oh, I know what we're doing now. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to decide what to do with our newfound money. And we look into buying a new tractor, and I'm pretty sure that we don't. Yeah, we don't. We also save the game, which in hindsight was a terrible idea, because I should have just reloaded it to avoid missing that revenue from that spilled silage, but of course at the time I didn't quite think about it. And now I'm debating whether or not to buy a tractor, and obviously I don't really need one since I already have that TI 160 thing. And I think I actually end up selling the my little New Holland loader eventually. I can't remember if I sell it on camera or not, but I do sell it because I don't need it anymore, because I can do everything with my telehandler, which is faster than a tractor at full speed, and is just, it's easier to use. Plus, when you have the loader attached onto the tractor, you can really easily flip it. Plus, the telehandler obviously is more useful for stuff such as silage. And now I'm actually debating whether or not to buy like a windrower, because even if I don't do hay with it, I could always just windrow together, you know, the straw. And I think I might have just bought it. And I'm talking about something, and I have no idea what I was talking about. Oh, I think I know what I was talking about. I was probably just talking about the fact that I think that we need to get into mowing because, it's a really useful thing to do, and we can make a lot of money now that we have that baler, because in between the time that it took me to load one of the wagons once, I actually went into a test world and for sure tested out and found out that the baler that I have can actually bale up straight grass without having to do any type of tethering or anything to it. So I'm actually just buying a mower right now. And then we jump around a little bit before realizing that we may as well just reset them, because there's no reason to drive all the way up to the shop. Or I think I even reset them just from the biogas plant, because there's really no reason to drive all the way back over when I don't need to. And we do leave the ballon band there because there's really no reason to bring it back, because unless I was to use it, actually I don't think you can use something like an overloader to actually offload into your silos. I think you actually have to use a dumper trailer, because I tested this out later with my telehandler, but if you dump like canola or something out of the bucket into the drop point, it'll actually destroy it, because I think that trigger is part of the problem. And now we're just doing a little bit of a size comparison, and this is something that I actually hadn't realized about it, but that hitch that I tried to hook into unsuccessfully is actually so that you can stick that little tiny part onto the front. So if your tractor only has a back hitch, you don't necessarily have to hook one on the front and one on the back. And even though my tractor does have a hitch on the front and a hitch on the back, I decided to hook them up like this just because it takes up less space, and while turning you're a lot less likely to miss grass. And it is kind of awkward because the little tool tip section that shows you what part of the tractor you're controlling, it kind of doesn't actually show you if you're controlling the front part of it, because I think it's a glitch in the animation, or the little model. And also, even though there is the option to put down the back, it doesn't actually work. The back is just basically always down, or if it isn't, then you can't tell by any type of animation, because it's obviously made to be on a 3-point hitch of its own. But I can forgive little things like that. And yeah, so basically what we do now is we're actually going to go around cutting grass, and then we're going to try making a bale out of it and selling it, because I want to see before I save all this, before I save, which sets in stone all the money that I would have invested into this. Before I save that, I want to make sure that it can be profitable, since it can be a really annoying thing to make up that amount of money again, because it does take quite a lot of money to start into hay. But if you have the right equipment, you can make a lot of money anyway. And sorry, there are some people talking right next to me, and I'm trying to make it so that you can't hear them. But anyway, so we should be getting about done. I think, I think that's it. And then, we do discover one flaw that I hadn't thought about with the baler before, which is that it requires 150 horsepower's minimum. I say minimum, and I stress that because I didn't really think about the fact that that's a minimum, until I actually tried using the biggest tractor at the time that we had. And oh yeah, first we have to rake it. But I'll just tell you, I basically throughout my testing have found out that it is a royal pain to have to actually use a underpowered tractor with that baler, because the baler in and of itself takes 150 horsepower to run, and that little tractor that I'm driving on the rake right now, it can only provide at maximum 160 horsepower. And I did bale enough bales with this off camera after this episode actually, that we are able to eventually start thinking about buying a new tractor. But right now I'm kind of having machinery woes. It's like I have so much machinery that I can't maneuver the rake through my own backyard. And briefly I think about resetting and buying the next smaller rake. But the problem with that is that you're going to need the biggest rake eventually, especially if you want to do hay for cows. Because I'm pretty sure for the cows to accept it as actual food, it does need to be tethered. And if you didn't know, tethering spreads the hay around, even if it starts out in a windrow. So you do need a rake if you plan on doing a lot of hay. And as you can see, I kind of give up on raking just because there's not really enough hay around to warrant actually worrying about it too much. But now what we're going to do is hook on to the baler and try this puppy out. And I might have said it originally when I bought the baler, but I really love this baler mod in particular from most other mods. It's because it is a very high quality mod that I only have 1 or 2 nitpicks with, and they are actually very, very small nitpicks. Now, one of them, which we'll find out in the next episode, or maybe it's the episode after that, but eventually we find out that those pallets that you buy that have the supplies for the baler on them, they don't despawn. They used to, I'm pretty sure that they used to despawn when you took everything off them, but they don't. But the funny thing about it is, because of that, you've obviously probably made like $50,000 at least off of the amount of bales that 5 things of net wrap can make. So even if you're not baling silage, you still make your money back from buying that $500 pallet of net wrap, and you can resell it for $250 even if it has nothing in it that was on it originally, because yeah, obviously you're not gonna sell a full pallet for $250 after buying it, but for just being able to get rid of it afterwards, it's a really easy convenience. And now, as you can see on that little camera, we actually have our first grass bale being wrapped. Now, as far as I can tell, this is instantaneous. It instantly gets turned into silage. And the only thing that can really make selling one silage bale different from another is if the price fluctuates. And you can actually see that if you don't eject the bale, it actually causes pretty big issues. And I decided that since I don't want to mess around with the wagon for it, then I can just unload it right by the shed, which actually works out pretty well. And this is when I discovered that thing about the shed, so watch. Oh wait, I think we're actually back into it, but I think when we get within about like 20 feet of it, it actually just sells the bale. And look at how much it sells it for. $5,000 a bale. And the second I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, we are selling these bales for that. Now, some of you might say, that's kind of stupid. You should have known this already from your first playthrough in Season 1. Which, by the way, it got cut short because of technical difficulties. But, yeah. Basically, I should have remembered, but, you know, it's been like half a year since I recorded Season 1, so I had pretty well forgotten. And now we are just trying to make another bale. And I can't remember if we just leave this one out to sit in the field or if we take it over there again. But, oh, I know what it is. I think that we just let it sit out because I remember there is one slight problem with this mod. If you'll notice, you can press a button to change the diameter of the bales. Now, this might seem like a very minute change. It goes from 1.3 to 1.4 to 1.5, I think is the biggest it does. This change is very important. Make sure that you have a mod that supports the bigger versions of the bales, or don't bale the bigger versions, because the 1.3 diameter bales, or 0.3 or whatever the default setting is, those ones are supported by the in-game equipment. The other two types are not supported by in-game equipment, so you will either need equivalent mods for them, or you will need something like a bale conveyor that doesn't care what bale or what size it is, it just picks up bales arbitrarily. A good example of that is, it's a, oh, what's it called? I can't remember the name of it now, but it's basically a bale conveyor, kind of like the ball and band, except it does not have a secondary chute, and it can only go in a straight line, and it has chains instead of belts to haul the bales. But yeah, that's very important to keep in mind, because trust me, after you've just built an entire field of bales that took you like an hour or two, you really don't want to discover that they're the wrong type. And oh, I think at this time I was commenting about how I like that you can clip through the roof, because you could do it in the older games. Except sometimes, especially in Farming Sim 2013 Hagenstad map, if you release the bales on top of the roof of that building, for some reason it ignored equipment, but it would shoot everything else into the air. But anyway, guys, my name is the Radman, and I'll see you in the next episode. Goodbye.